Piedra River Hot Springs, or Sheep Creek Hot Springs as some call it, is probably one of the easier primitive hot springs that you can find here in the beautiful state of Colorado. It's perfect for a quick afternoon getaway with enough distance from downtown Pagosa Springs that it's usually not super crowded. If you go during the week and during the off season, chances are you may have the hot springs to yourself. But even if there are others around, there's plenty of pools along the river to help spread folks out. To get to the trailhead from downtown Pagosa Springs, you'll head west on Highway 160 for about 20 miles. You'll turn north on First Fork Road or Forest Service Road 622, which parallels the Piedra River. While the dirt road is in relatively good shape, there are some blind corners with some exposure. Be sure to slow down and take it easy on these parts. About 7 miles down the road, you'll see a sign for Sheep Creek Trailhead. This is your starting point. There's plenty of parking available and a couple of dispersed campsites nearby. The hike itself starts off at the trailhead. It's about 2.8 miles out and back. This is a deceiving hike because it's nothing but downhill for the first mile. You start off at nearly 7,500 feet and end up at 6,880 feet where the springs are located. You can reach the hot springs in under 45 minutes easy. Now, there's not many views on this hike, but it doesn't matter because you're coming here for the hot springs. The trail is part of the Sheep Creek Trail until you reach the river. There's a couple of spots that can lead you astray if you're not careful. About halfway in, you'll end up at a point where it seems like you want to go straight, but look for the cairns and sticks placed on the ground that divert you to the right. You'll hit some steep switchbacks over the next quarter mile or so where you'll come out into a meadow near the river. If you go straight, you'll end up at a nice little spot for a campfire. This is where the Sheep's Creek Trail continues on for another 5 miles or so. But to get to the hot springs, you'll want to again divert to the right instead of this little campfire area. From here, you'll parallel the Piedra River for another half mile. You'll come upon a short little climb and then enter an open area surrounded by huge pines. Off to your left by the river are the Piedra Hot Springs, and from here you'll have your choice of mini pools whose temperature is regulated by how much water is flowing from the river into these pools. Now, the pools are not deep, but you can easily lay down in them and be completely covered by the hot water. The temperatures are very comfortable and even too hot at times. When sitting in the pools, you'll definitely hit some hot spots where the rocks and the mud underneath are very, very hot. But overall, the pools furthest from the river are easily in the low hundreds. Closer to the river, and it quickly drops down into the 80s and even 70s, which after sitting in the warmer pools feels quite nice. And of course, you can always cool off in the Piedra River. These springs are cleaner than the ones at Rainbow Hot Springs. Lots of rocks and overall clear water, not as much mulch and mud. You can see the bottom of many of these pools. The one unfortunate aspect to this area is the trash. I saw towels, old swimsuits, and of course beer cans and candy wrappers, so please abide by the principle of pack it in and pack it out. Keep this area clean and in its natural state. Please respect the outdoors. As you're relaxing in the hot springs, keep in mind how much downhill there was to get here, because after you clean up and dry off and put your clothes back on, it's time for some climbing. In fact, about 600 feet of elevation gain just to get back to the trailhead, which occurs mostly in about half a mile. So you're definitely gonna huff and puff and sweat a little bit, so make sure you are in enough shape to be able to get out of these hot springs area. Overall, this is a great little spot that's easy to get to, and the vibe is super chill. I went in early November on a Sunday, and there were about 8 other people at the springs with me. All were very friendly locals from either Durango or Pagosa. Clothing is optional, but everyone there was either in a swimsuit or their undies.